Good morning. Um, this is Advanced Techniques and How to Teach Them. And I'm Bob Avant. I'm presenting this topic today. Um, I would like to encourage you at the outset here to look around you and try to find 4 objects that can emulate handbells. Something with a handle, maybe a pen, maybe, I don't know, a water bottle, 4 of them. Find sometime in the next, say, 10, 15 minutes or so that you can make use of when we get to that point. We'll just do that in advance. All right, we'll get started. So, what causes the need for advanced techniques? And the response to that is the complexity in the music. Once the demands musically start to spike, generally that also follows that we need some advanced techniques, to be in use at those times. In a response to the complexity of music in the handbell publishing world has been to develop levels of difficulty of pieces of music. And as you know, since you're in the advanced session, these levels start at level 1 and go up to, well, technically level 6, although there's maybe this many of pieces that are written as level 6, but mostly level 5 is the peak. And we call advanced pretty much in level 3, 4, and 5 area. And what is it? What are the differences uh, between the lower levels of music and these upper levels of music? And in other words, what are the demands on the ringers that we call them advanced? There are some physical skills, and this will become like a short list of topics for you if you are dealing with advanced music. These are topics to teach and to have your students do very well with, students and or adults. So the first one, we'll call it physical skills. And this means multiple bell requirements. With complex music, uh, there's a 100,000% chance that you have a lot of complexity as far as like chromatic notes that one person would need to play. Even though one person only has 2 hands, they may have to play 4 bells right in a row. And so multiple bell techniques is a requirement of skills. There is a greater need for anticipation and preparation for the next bells to come. This is accomplished in 2 ways. One is by becoming better at the physical transitions between 2 bells or more bells with hands. If you have to switch bells, you're doing so very efficiently, but very quickly. And so you're able to anticipate the next bell quickly and in time so you can get to it. The second way to increase your anticipation and preparation is to increase the vision skills as a ringer. And this truly is a skill. With level 1, level 2 ringers, typically their eyes are focused on the notes that they are playing, or maybe just one more that follows. With complex music, tempo and 16th notes, whatever, you can't do that and still play. You've got to have a greater field of vision looking forward so that you can be prepared to play the notes that are to come. And there are skills involved in doing that. Another physical skill that comes into play with advanced skills or techniques, bass bell technique. And by bass bell, I'm talking about things below C4, which puts us in the low bass range of C3 and up, all the 3s, and even into the 2s as well, if you're fortunate to have those. So there's a skill set involved in this. And the last physical skill set that I will mention that is something to focus on with advanced techniques is 4 in hand. and that is a technique that is utilized in the upper range, where the bells that they are provided to play are in octaves. So you would have, for example, a G6 and a G7, an A6 and an A7, plus the sharps and flats. And so you've got, if you're that in that range as a ringer, you've got as many as 8 bells that you get to play spread in 2 octaves. And so the skill set needed for that is called 4 in hand. So these are the physical skills to pay attention to. We will be covering a number of these today, but should we not get in depth with all of them, these are the topics that really need your attention to do well with advanced techniques and teaching them. On the conceptual side for skills, because there's more to it than just the physical manipulation of bells. Rhythmic mastery in general is needed with advanced music, and you know, as you know, with handbells, the music might have a complex rhythm, da 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 da. But for handbell ringers, they have to realize that there is that complex rhythm, but that they play on the 5th and the 11th note of that rhythmic pattern. And so they've got to be able to follow through with a rhythmic pattern to the point where they know they get to play and be confident and play on time. And so this really causes a need for a higher level of rhythmic mastery to be involved. So this is, again, this is part of the package for for what to learn and what to focus on in learning and in teaching with respect to advanced ringing. Other other conceptual skills, I would call it, musicality components, and these things become more frequent and more demanding. A cello rondo, for example, you won't find one of those in a level 1 piece that brings up the tempo to like 16th note level. So the musicality components become much more dense and complex in advanced music. So one needs to just expect that will be a demand on the ringer and the conductor as well. And in general, as a conceptual skill, I would say you need an attitude. You need an attitude of confidence, and you get that confidence through control, the control of the physical skill sets that are needed, the control of the vision that you can look forward and be prepared to play what comes. So there's all these kinds of things that are the complete package, the physical as well as conceptual items to focus on and pay attention to. So we are going to try to address a bunch of those today in the time allotted. It's impossible to teach everything in the entire lexicon of what to do and how to do it in 1 hour or 50 minutes, as the case may be today. So we will get to as much as we can. I'll try to get in depth as much as I can, and we'll do that. All right. All right, so first, we're going to start with some physical skill development. And the emphasis I have for you today is not to teach you to do these skills, although we will do a little bit of that perhaps, but it's more about how to teach them, okay? So as a director, you know, you need to be able to master each of these skills, of course, but the trick is, if you want your group to do well and to learn these things, you need to be a master teacher at these aspects. So I'm going to be focusing on the teaching aspect through some exercises or explanations or something like that, and hopefully that'll be helpful. All right. So with multiple bell ringing, we'll start with this. There are 2 basic categories involved in multiple bell ringing. There's 2 approaches that are utilized. One is called simply, I've just labeled it as put down and pick up. In other words, you have a bell in hand that you no longer need, but you need to ring the bell that's sitting on the table next. So what do? You have to put that bell down and reach over and pick up the next bell and play it. That's a skill, actually. And the other aspect of multiple bell ringing, the other approach is called the weave, Weave. And this is a skill set that happens when when you have a sequence of bells to play in a row. Oftentimes it's chromatic. So you have four. You have four chromatic bells to play in sequence, and last check, you only had two hands to play with. So there had to be you've got to have some kind of a technique developed to go sequentially up and down chromatically. And it's similar to, but not the same as, the put down pickup concept. All right, I am going to change my video source, and I have a demo table set up. Hopefully, yes. All right, technology. Ricky, can you see that? Good, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna move over. in the section for the presentation, there were several handouts, and one of those handouts is this one, which is labeled multiple bell methods and exercises. And so if you have not seen that, it is there, and you should probably grab that. If you want to reference that right away, that's great. If not, you'll just follow along with what we're talking about and see what we can accomplish. I'm assuming you have it in front of you. So I will put this down, lay it down, and be able to do this. All right. So you've got, if you have those four objects that you can call bells in front of you, this is good. Hey, I've got a question because my video is reversed. Ricky, if I lift this bell up, is that on the left side of your image?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I'm seeing a reversed image of that on my side. So good to know it's not going out in reverse. Thank you. All right. So here, let me just do put down pickup. We only need two bells for this one. So put down pickup is all about take left hand, and all you're going to do is you would want to ring it and then put it down and go reach over and pick up the other one, which sounds easy, and certainly it is. However, here's the problem. If you don't pay attention to, and this is a teaching aspect, don't pay attention to releasing the bell and going to the next. Let me do it poorly, and you can see it. Okay. So I'm putting it down now, and now I'm going to go grab the next one. Did you see what just happened to the original bell? It's out of position. What happened? I'll do it in slow-mo. As I put it down, I let go of it and then went over and grabbed the next bell, and it rolled. Why did it roll? And this is a teaching moment, okay? The proper technique for putting a bell down and getting another one is not let have the fingertips be the last thing that touches the handle. It's not that. If it is that, if you think of it as you release that handle and the fingertips are the last thing to touch in slow-mo, it's going to roll on the table, okay? And at faster tempos, that can easily get you out of position, and then you have to come back to that same bell. Now you got to do some scrambling to reset. Different idea. The way I teach this is to say that it is not the fingertips that are the last thing to touch the handle. It is actually what you do is you let your fingernails scrape the surface of the table. Okay. So if my hand is here and my fingernails are on, they're basically on touching the table right now. So as I release the handbell, I will explode my hand, explode my hand open, scratching my fingernails on the tabletop. Okay, this, if you do it that way and explode the fingertips, the fingernails off the pad, it is never going to roll on you. that bell will stay put exactly where you want it to be so that you can come back and it'll still be there for you. So teaching tip number one is how to let go of a bell. And that's the best way for me to try to teach it. So scrape the fingernails on the surface of the pad to release it, explode the hand, and go grab the next bell. And then same thing, come back to it. Okay. Now I'm over accentuating this, and as if you are teaching this, have them do exactly this. Over accentuate that feel and that effort. When it gets to reality and they are actually playing something and they have to do it, because they've developed that habit of releasing their hand very quickly and scraping fingernails, they can soften, if you will, soften that explosion, but they still get it done right and it will stay in place. All right. So that was step one. So in the multiple bell methods and exercises handout, we're going to do line one, or I'll do line one if you can follow along. It is simply left hand, with quarter note, quarter rest, back and forth. So all this is to play one, down exactly on two, grab the next bells and up so you can get it on three. Okay, so it's got to be in tempo. So we're going to go one, down, three, down, one, down, three, down, one. And I don't know if you can tell, but the distance and time involved from getting from one bell to the other is quick. And this is something to emphasize, that you want to have the music that is printed for this exercise is quarter note, quarter rest, quarter note, not eighth note or 16th note, but quarter note. So full value. So one, down release, two, down release grab, one, down release grab, down release grab. Very quick. That's the skill set and technique. Finishing out line one is we do it same idea but use the right hand. And so it's the same thing, but we're going to bring on 2 and 4 on this exercise. So rest, 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 2, 3, 4, beat 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so far so good. As you go back and those measures get repeated, and you can change tempos, and you can walk up and down the table to make sure that they're not rolling. Their bells are not rolling. You can reteach about not explode off the table, and that's a good way to get things going. All right, so I have 4 bells. Let me get them on camera better. Good. So on line two is if the way I like to arrange things is if I put 4 bells in front of me, don't worry about what notes these are. Just pretend that it's bell number 1, bell number 2, bell number 3, and bell number 4. Okay, so we're just going to use like numbers. We can use numbers for a moment. So in line number 2, you see the numbers that are above each quarter note. I have 1, 3, 2, 4 as a pattern. So I'm going to ring the first bell, the third bell, the second bell, and then the fourth bell. But look at what hands do what. Okay. It is 1, 3, 2, 4. Okay. So it is 1, 3, 2, 4. Okay, so each hand on line 2, each hand gets to do essentially it's a combination of the first half and second half of line 1 put into line 2. And again, you can do this and teach with different tempos, go up and down the line, make sure it looks good, etc. Number 3 is a different animal. It actually just uses 3 bells. Don't need that one. Okay, so it uses 3 bells. looking at it, it's got left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand. Okay, well, if I follow that and it's the first, second, and third bells back to, 1, 2, 3, 2. Interesting. 1, 2, 3, 2. All right, so take the first, hands on first two bells. And if you do it slowly with me, here is the first bell. Here is the second bell. Third bell with the left hand is rung. And then I go back to the same bell on the right hand. If you notice, and you should, that the right hand in this exercise never leaves the hand. The left hand is the one doing the work. Now you can't see on camera, but what I'm doing with the bell that I'm holding up is I'm dampening it at the shoulder. Okay, so I'm dampening the left hand on the table, grabbing, and they are doing put down, pick up, and the bell on the right hand is ringing and dampening normally. So you can follow with that on line 3, and it gets crazy. I do say go slow because I've got it written out as eighth notes pretty quick. So if you get to that eighth note part, quickness of hand transition is really critical, and that's emphasized. Line 4 is the same as line 3, but going the other direction. Okay. All right. Flipping the page in the handout, there's one more set that I would like to show. And it's number 5. It says more 4-bell put down pickup patterns. And again, I've got this lined out for you, just a set of numbers with some instructions off to the side. I'm going to let you read the instructions, but one thing in particular I want to highlight that is very interesting for ringers to discover. And that is that if you follow the instructions on this, one of the instructions says start with the left hand. So we, in the case of 1, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3. But part of the instruction says give it a try to go with the other hand first. So in this case, I would say, oh, this is odd. So I would go 1, 4, 2, 3. And by doing that, the ringer will discover that sometimes it is easier to start with the wrong hand on the wrong bell. And that's a key piece of information for them to know. I'm going to switch back to the other camera here. And there we go. So it's a real key piece of information. If they know that it's okay to play with the wrong hand, because sometimes it makes it flow easier, that's a great piece of information that they can apply in an advanced piece as part of a solution to figuring out how to deal with a particularly complex line that they have to play. So the handout does go through that kind of thing as well. All right, I'm going to go back to the other camera, and we're going to talk about the 3 and 4 bell weave. So in the 3 and 4 bell weave, a 3 bell weave, let's use that first. This is an occurrence where the notes are sequential in chromatic order. So I'm going from first bell, second bell, third bell. And if I do this, what happens is I'm going ring 1, ring 2, and now I'm ringing 3. And now the fun is a couple of pieces of fun. I've got to return bell 2 home to where it started. If you don't pay attention to that, what it just did, you'll get it mixed up. Here's a bad way. And now I have out of order. So there is technique in this. Here's the technique that I like to teach with a weave pattern, okay? When you have a set of bells in front of you that you have to um, play sequentially, and we have to use this weave technique, it's very important. Rule number one, never cross arms to play. In other words, to grab the third bell and then try to play it, and exactly that. It will clank on you. Something will clank and it will be bad. So we have to avoid crossing hands. And the best way that I have come up with dealing with that is this. When I teach how to do this weave, I tell them there's a rule. And the rule is that if they take an imaginary line up from the outside edges of the bell, think of that as two walls, a wall here and a wall here. And they are not to ring inside that wall. They're to ring outside of that line. Okay. So here's the first bell, and I would ring it outside the box. Second bell, as I put the first down, the second bell gets rung not here, but it gets rung on the outside of that box, outside. While that is sounding, I'm clear to come get that third bell. You see how my hands are not crossed? And take them both back and put that one down as I ring the third bell outside the box. So let me do it a little quicker. Outside, outside, outside. Okay. Now, what you might see in the exercise number 6, for this particular exercise, I have the 3 bells. And what happens is I end up with the wrong bell in the left hand. So part of the exercise is written as a half note, and we get a new technique called hand pass. So we're going to pass the bell from one to the other. I think I'll have to tilt it forward so you can see what I'm doing. So as you hold the bell, the other hand comes from underneath and replaces it like that. But of course, it's upright. Okay. So that becomes on the half note as we go on. All right, skipping forward because we need to keep moving. There's a question about where do you find the handouts. It should be listed with the descriptor for this session. So there should be a link for this particular handout. It will be there. And if it's not, email me. And I will be glad to send it to you. My email is bob_avant@baylor.edu. All right, hopefully that'll help you on that side. The last thing I wanted to mention is 4-bell weave. And if you have the bells laid out 1, 2, 3, 4, then the numbers, the bells to play are the first, second, third, and fourth. Same concept, outside the box, outside the box, outside the box, outside the box. So I'll just kind of leave it right there for that. Okay. So again, these are ways to teach this. Now, if you really get a group that thinks they know everything, let me change back, and they think, I can do the weave. I can keep up with what you're asking me to do. I'm not challenged at all. Change that little fact with them. Change what you do on these is, instead of using quarter notes, you can use a dotted rhythm, dotted quarter eighth note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It speeds up the need to do the hand transitions, and it's a great way to challenge and teach new skills at a higher level. They get tired of that. We're going to do doubly dotted quarter notes followed by a 16th, doubly dotted quarter, followed by 16th, and really speed up the hand transition. It will challenge them to do well at that. Okay. Oh, thank you. I think Breck also put the handout in the chat window, so you can download it directly from there. All right, I'm going to leave that because we have more topics to go through. But again, my concept today is not to teach exactly how to do these things and have you be successful at it. It's more about how to teach these things rather than do. So you can learn this through the handouts and in your own efforts. But I'm talking about how to teach things. Hopefully that'll help you out. Let's talk bass bell techniques. With respect to bass bells, you know, a lot of the groups today are 5-octave groups. If you're a 5-octave group, you have the low octave in what's the range of the 3s. If you don't have the 3s, if you're a 3-octave group, there are less of those out there these days. It feels like that. It may not be correct, but it feels that way. But you can still get some benefit out of this. So bass bell technique is different in the lowest bells than it is for the rest of the group. And of course, the factor is the weight and size of the bells. And the other factor is you have the same physical layout of a forearm and a wrist and a hand as everybody else. But because of the weight and size, you've got to develop a different technique with ringing those bass bells to be safe and physically safe and whatnot. So here's the thing. We want to protect our wrists. We don't want to have any overextensions and things that will eventually stress and strain as you go through. So the technique is different. When you go to pick up a large bell, it is most important to avoid having the lip of the bell be the last thing off the table. Now, I think I can demo it this way. So if this is on my table right here, and I go to pick up this bell to play it, if I do it this way, see how my wrist is going chaos? It's doing crazy things right here. This is really bad for the physical inside of the wrist, especially if this bell is truly in the 3 range. It's very heavy relative to other bells like this size. So if your technique, bass bell ringing technique guy, person, whoever, is lifting lip of the bell off first or last rather, they're going to be very tired and sore, and honestly, they're going to have problems long term. So the different technique of picking up a bell off the table, let's say this is resting on the table and I come over to pick it up. So what I first do is, as I grab the handle, instead of lifting it, I'm going to push it into the foam, and then I'm going to lift it straight up. Very important. Okay. So push down and then lift straight up. And, I'm sitting kind of wonky here, so it looks like it's bending my wrist, but it really is not. If I'm on the table, maybe I can stand. If I'm picking this up off the table, push, and then lift up, you can see that my hand is already in very good form. It's mostly straight right here on the wrist, mostly straight, which is healthy for a bass ringer. So push down and pick it up and play. The other aspect about bass bell ringing is that's different, is that the strike point, that point in which you make the sound happen on the bass bell, cannot be the same type of location that a small bell is also putting a strike point. The smaller bells, strike point is kind of down, even with maybe like here, which you can't, I'm off camera, that's so far down. But if you put a bass bell in the hand and you try to ring it downward, that causes the wrist to strain this way. And again, we try to avoid that. So the answer is for the bass bells, the ones that stand out, the ones that are large, the ones that are heavy, the ones that are standing out, I'll say that again, get rung at a much higher level than everybody else on the tables. And that point is up high. It's like nose level or above. That's the strike point. Up here, and above. Why? Because as you ring that bell, notice that the wrist is not extending out. Okay, this is the health and safety factor. So the bass bell gets rung way up high, nose level, or even higher. Bass bell ringers also need another skill set to do well, and it has to do with their eye, their vision, their ability to see ahead in the music so that they can anticipate the next bells. Larger bells need more time to manipulate, to get them grabbed, lifted correctly, swung back, ready to ring, and then forward to ring. That whole aspect of playing takes a little bit more time than any other bell on the table. They need more anticipation. And that anticipation happens with greater eye vision forward in the music, not watching the note that they are playing, but watching a measure ahead and playing in the moment. But they're looking and knowing quickly what's to come. All right. Shifting gears again. All right. Hopefully that will help you with some of the advanced stuff. There is 4 in hand that we talked about. And I have in the handout, and I'm going to I'm going to probably modify the content today because 50 minutes is very short. I'm not sure I do have the handout. I'm not sure I do. I don't think I do, come think of it. All right, so let me go over to the other camera and show a little bit of this. Great. So here we are with 4 bells, and when we do 4 in hand, this is the upper bells are all smaller than these. So I've got the wrong bells for demoing 4 in hand. So you have to pretend with me that these are the small bells. They are, for example, here's like an, this may be it is an F6, and then the octave would be up here, which would be the F7. And I'll say this is a F sharp. Now I'll say G6, and its octave is up here. Okay, so to play in 4 in hand, it's a way to put a total of 4 bells in your hand, 2 in the left hand and 2 in the right, in such a way that you can individually play a selected note, not just both of them together. So the setup for that is the secret sauce. Take the bottom bell and turn it over and inward. When I said turn it, I meant the handle gets rotated. So if you can see it crossed here, you can see that the bottom bell is normal, but when I came and turned the top bell, it is now crossed. So I'll do that over here as well. See, so you can see both. And then to pick them up, one finger in the middle of all of that, and then grab all around everything else. Same thing with the other side. And then you pick them up and you're ready to go. And when you say ready to go, what do you mean? Okay. If you notice it, because we crossed and turned the handles, when you pick them up, if you wanted to play normally with the normal direction of the hand, you're only going to get one bell sounding, the one that is correctly oriented to a correctly oriented wrist. If you turn your wrist this way, and the word to use to describe this is ring, because you're ringing, knock, because looks like you're knocking on a door. So these are the two physical directions. I can selectively ring either one of those bells. So ring and knock. Those are the two key phrases or two key words about describing that. All right. But you might ask, well, what about when the octaves have to play together at the same time? What if you have to play octaves instead of just the lower or just the upper? What if you have to play both at the same time? Well, this is the other style besides ring and knock. And for lack of a better word, swipe is a good way to do it. By swiping, you are kind of you're blending between a ring and a knock kind of thing, and just trying to energize these clappers to go forward. There they are. And bigger bells, and like these are too big to be doing this with. It's harder to make it happen. But essentially, it's like a J, kind of a hook, and a snap of the wrist, not a bend, but a snap. So it's just a swipe kind of thing. So there can be exercises developed to changing cameras again. There can be exercises developed to play these selective bells or octave bells. The more challenging the music level, the more likely it is that that you will be doing individually selected bells. The lower the difficulty level, like level 3, level 2, when it has octaves, almost always is at the same time, together at the same time. Okay, there is one other technique on how to play octaves, but I'm not going to say it because it's more of the basic side, so that's all right. So four in hand is something to get accustomed to and to learn. There are some online resources I know out there, and I think I also have a handout, and I can't remember if I put that in. I don't think I did, and I'll try to share that another time with you. All right. Changing gears. Greater anticipation and preparation is needed for playing the more advanced pieces. And again, this is all about changing the focus of the eyes away from the note that's getting performed to a little further in front. The way I teach this, and this is a big difference between beginning groups and more advanced groups, this one aspect. It's not a physical skill, but it's a human skill of looking. So the way I teach this is I turn around, which I'll do for you as well, and I demonstrate and I say, okay, well, I use my left hand to say, this is the note that you are playing. This is where your eyes are looking. Okay, so if you are looking at the note you are playing, the very next note that you wind up having to play in this layout, the very next note you have to play is a surprise, because you were watching that note being played. Say it's a whole note. You watch it for 4 counts, and surprise, there's a note that follows. And so the eyes are trying to catch up to that very late. So what you see as a result of this in a rehearsal is that someone will be in scramble mode all the time. They are not able to to be prepared for the next note that follows, because, and the reason is, their eyes are in the wrong place. So what I try to do is, in this teaching mode, is illustrate again. Here is the note you're going to be playing, and here are your eyes. What you want to do is get your eyes over to the right, get the eyes further ahead, so that you can watch the notes that are coming and still play in the moment. How is that possible? Short-term memory. What you're trying to get them to do is short-term memory for like a half a measure, maybe a full measure. More advanced music, maybe further ahead. But this is a skill of short-term memory and performance. Okay, it's great to be able to tell you that that's what you need, but how do you teach that? I came up with one way. I don't think this is the one and only, but I'll share this with you. One way you can do this to teach, training-wise, to teach, looking further ahead in the music, is have the group start at measure 13. And you're going along in measure 13, everybody's playing, and then at the signal, they hear they are to close their eyes and play as long as they can remember. So like a hand clap or something. So if we're going, everybody's starting measure 13, and you go a measure or two or three, whatever you want to do, clap your hands, they all close their eyes, but keep playing as long as they can. And of course, they don't get very far, some more than others. All right, we'll try it again. Let's try measure 22. Ready, go. Boom, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-dum. Close your eyes, and they play as long as they can. It becomes a game. And that's part of the fun, and the way we learn well is through gaming. So, this is some way, some people will get better quickly at this, but that's one way to help teach with that. I'm going to skip ahead to some of the conceptual skills. I mentioned rhythm is a key aspect that we want to teach. Use a rhythm counting system. Use rhythm cards, whatever you can do to get things understood as far as rhythms. The way I teach is I've got a difficult rhythm. Let's string. I will say, okay, trebles. I want all of you to count the rhythm, the whole rhythm. And basically in the music, the rhythm may be in the music, it's going up and down with different notes. I just tell them, squash all that down to summarize it down to just the rhythm only. And I want you to count out loud very strongly that rhythm. Bass clef, you get to play that rhythm. You can think those rhythm notes, but I want you to be able to perform those. So we split like that. So half the group is supporting the other half by counting out loud. It's teaching them to be comfortable with counting, etc. Flip it. So the bass clef now is counting out loud, and the trebles are doing it that way. That's one way to make use of that kind of thing. Musicality. I teach this by using a magic phrase, read around the notes. So as we're going through, and some individuals blew right through a pianissimo marking, for example, I'll stop and say, we need to read around the notes more. And this is a way for them to open their awareness from just their note and their rhythm, but to see other things around the music that's printed. And hopefully one of those other things that they can see when they become more aware might be the conductor, we hope. We don't guarantee that, but that's one of the things that they can read around the notes to see, is actually expand beyond. And of course, the conductor is doing all kinds of wondrous things with crescendos and musicality, if only they would watch. But that's the start of that. All right, I'm moving. All right, one other aspect with advanced groups that is a concept, a very important one. You might find in your group that there is a piece of music that 12 or 13 ringers having no problems with, but that 13th ringer is struggling, and you hear this common phrase, I'm going to get it, I'm getting it, I'm going to practice it, I'm going to take it home and bring it back and practice, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. Next week comes and they don't get it. Next week after that, they don't get it. Everybody else has already gotten their parts. Teamwork is the key word. So the difference in what I described is I described someone who is being very territorial in their playing. What we need to do is have teamwork where that person says, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it, I'm not getting it. Joe, would you take this bell on this measure for me? And so great, thank you. I can get the rest of it. Teamwork leads to success. I am basically out of time. So I'm going to stop right here. Clearly, there's more topics to go through, but I've got like 30 seconds to go. So if you have any questions, throw it into the chat. I'll try to address in the limited time we have here. But continue to teach, continue to learn, find different ways to teach the same topic. Not everybody learns in the same way, in the same styles. And sometimes you have to teach multiple directions to get things to work well. Use that, and we'll stop right here. I do have another session coming after this one. I hope to see most of you there, many of you there at least. And I thank you for your time today.